Parul, you just asked now. Okay, the other Parul, we will.
Thanks.
Yes.
The Singapore Court of Appeal has today upheld the government of Maldives' authority to take control of the Malé airport. How does India view this development? Also, do you plan to have any communication with Malé between now and Friday midnight, which is a deadline that they've set for GMR?
Yes, we too have seen reports to that effect. Also, a judgment has been issued, and we are studying the judgment both here and our High Commission in Maldives. But that said, since you've asked the question, I think I owe you a reply in terms of our immediate response to that. And that is our understanding of that initial understanding, if I may preface it, is that that there were two issues that were submitted for consideration in the legal process. One was about the right or the ability of a state to take over a property. And that has been responded to in terms of that judgment as we perceive it. But there are other issues. Those deal with issues regarding the legality of the agreement and the question that whether it was ab initio valid or not. And linked with that are issues related to the compensation of that the other party, that is the GMR and its associate in Malaysia, is entitled to. So these are issues which are not either affected by that judgment or have been responded to at this stage in that judgment. That is our initial response to this. As far as we are concerned, we've always said that fulfillment of legal processes and requirements is what we would like to see in this case, and we hope that all relevant contracts and agreements would be adhered to, and the legal processes that are required to fulfill them are carried through. I hope in a broader context, in the time available, I've been able to respond in some detail to those. I may not be able to provide more details because this is these are early days. We need to understand, the lawyers need to understand the judgment and to take a more calibrated view of this.
But the ministry will take a look at this judgment.
Sure, we would. Yes, Manish.
We were the first one to confer some sort of legitimacy to President Wahid. It seems that subsequently there has been a major misreading of what's happening here. An Indian envoy has been recalled, or he's come back, a new envoy is being sent. Could you talk about the role of, what's going on?
Let me correct your facts first. The Indian envoy in Maldives has been there for more than 3 years. A normal stay of an Indian envoy is 3 years. So the fact that you've used a rather strong word called recall. Yes, a recall is done by a government for a person who hasn't completed his normal tenure of office. So please, you are journalists covering the Ministry of External Affairs, and we would appreciate greatly if diplomatic terms are adhered to, because this is a very strong word that you've used. But that said, let me come back to your question. And that question was that if an Indian ambassador or a high commissioner completes 3 years, it's normal to transfer him from that to another place. He went there, by my reading, 3 years and 7 months ago. And he has been posted by the normal process to a slot which is going to be vacant in March next year, which would mean he would complete 3 years and 11 months. You are fairly well aware with the Ministry of External Affairs and its ways of functioning. 3 years and 11 months is well beyond the normal term of an Indian ambassador or a high commissioner. So please take that in that perspective. The next question you raised, or the first question that you wanted me to answer, was relating to whether there was a misreading or something like that.
It seems that Indian forces seem to be behind the cancellation of this contract.
No, this is the third question. No. You asked us a first question whether we had misread the change of transfer of power in Maldives, and I will answer that. You can't get a third, so let's answer that. Now, that issue, I think, stands settled with the outcome of the CNI, where there were international judges and legal experts who went into the circumstances relating to the transfer of power in Maldives and acknowledged that as far as the transfer of power was concerned, this was in accord with the norms that are to be followed in such cases. They did, of course, raise issues about certain issues and developments, but the transfer of power itself was not a question which is in contention right now. So if we followed and were able to judge rightly that the transfer of power was a legal transfer of power, I do not know how you could say that it was wrong. Are you trying to then say that we should not have abided by a legal transfer of power? I'm certain that is not your premise. So I think I've answered that question too, and two questions I think are beyond the norm in such matters. We will then take up somebody else. Yeah, sure. Yes. Seema.
Why are we going out on a limb for GMR? Just want to ask you. What is so great about GMR?
There's a supplementary to this, if you allow. GMR yesterday described their case as that of national interest. What is the national interest in the GMR case in the Maldives? And in view of the court judgment, would you advise them to hand over the airport now?
I think we've made it pretty clear previously that it represents the biggest Indian investment in Maldives, number one. All we are trying to say was, please adhere to the legal processes. We've noted that now there is a legal process which is underway, and therefore all we're saying is take it to its logical conclusion. We've neither said anything more nor anything less than that. It's adherence to the legal processes that is of primary importance to us. Yes, sir. Ashwini.
So what's the government of India's view? The Maldives cabinet has said that the GMR airport passes lapse on Friday at 11:59. In view of the judgment that the court has given, what view does the government of India take on that?
Well, look, you can't expect me to answer on a sort of minute-by-minute issue in terms of what decisions are being taken. I've explained to you the broad parameters of our policy, that we believe in the legal processes being taken to their logical culmination. Yes, Mr. Venkat Narayan. I'll come to all of you one by one. Sure.
One of the papers suggested this morning that a special envoy of President Waheed had sought an appointment with the Prime Minister of India, and he waited for 45 days but was not given an appointment. So he got so cheesed off and went back and advised the President to kick out GMR from Mali. You have any comment to make on that? Thanks.
Yes. Let me put the facts before you and you could decide about it. There was a request for a special envoy to visit India to submit to the Prime Minister a version of what they see was the rationale for a decision to be taken. Immediately it was communicated to our counterparts that the special envoy is welcome. The special envoy will be received in India at an appropriate level. And I think that's fair in diplomatic practice to indicate, the host indicates who receives a guest. And I don't think there was any delay on our part, and the The story that comes out saying he waited for 45 days in India is a figment of imagination. Yes.
So recently our NSA went to China for border talks, and it has been termed as it's going on in the right direction. What is your ministry's reaction to the border talks?
Well, I think the way the Ministry of External Affairs operates is very well known. There was a member of the Ministry of External Affairs in the delegation of the National Security Advisor, and at the end of the visit of the National Security Advisor, he summed up the Government of India's position. There is no position different in the Government of India than what the NSA has said, and we in the Ministry of External Affairs are part of Government of India. Yes.
Sir, I wanted to ask about the precedents this GMR instance sets. So when the Government of India, I mean, when you say that this is India's biggest investment in Maldives, what about, I mean, so will the Government of India throw its weight behind investments in any other country? I mean, a lot of which are, of course, or could be problematic. And many are in regimes that are not very stable. We don't know what really is happening there. Will you defend every sort of deal that runs into trouble?
I think in diplomacy we don't answer hypothetical questions about not even saying which country, where, etc. Just saying across the globe, will you defend? And I will not fall into that trap. Yes. Shinjoy. We've seen others fall into that trap and get stuck.
Sir, some time ago, your High Commissioner in London wrote a letter to the British government at the request of the Finance Revenue Secretary about Lalit Modi. Now, have you got a reply? And if you have, what is the reply? And also, sir, the boundary agreement with Bangladesh was signed in Dhaka in September last year. It hasn't been implemented as yet. Now, has the Bangladesh government been in touch with India on the issue?
Let me answer your second question first. Yes, what you said is a matter of fact in terms of this agreement having been signed last year. The Bangladesh government has been in touch with us regularly at various levels. We've had meetings by all important leaders from Bangladesh with our senior leaders, and this has from time to time figured as a matter in those bilateral discussions. At this stage, as some of you are aware, this requires a constitutional amendment, and the process has already been initiated. There are discussions which are underway at this stage, and it is the expectation that this would be at a certain stage, when it is ready, be presented to the cabinet for approval, and then finally to the to our parliament for parliamentary approval before it can be implemented. That's where we stand on the first one. On the second, I'm afraid I don't have, what you said is right, that this communication from our High Commission to the UK government has been provided. I do not know whether, as of now, whether we've got a response, but I intend to find it out, and I will circulate to you by the end of this day if a response has been received. Anyone else who hasn't taken a question, and then we will take. Yes. Yes, Geeta. Yes.
There was a statement by the Chinese Foreign Ministry again on the South China Sea and the explorations that are being carried out in that region by other countries, saying that China is not happy and that the border policing on the ships that enter the disputed waters is something that China will stick to. What is India's reaction to that? And also, if I could put in another question on Satyajit Ray's scripts having gone missing in Paris, the family will be approaching the Ministry of External Affairs. Have they done it? And will you be taking it up at a diplomatic level with France?
I thought it was one question. And these are on two different things. On the issue of the South China Sea, I think we've made our position clear on several occasions. We are aware that sovereignty over certain areas of the South China Sea is disputed by several countries in the region. India is not a party to this dispute. We have on several occasions reiterated our position on what we consider that we support, and that is, we support freedom of navigation, rights of passage, and access to resources in accordance with international law and accepted principles. We do hope that sovereignty issues in the South China Sea are resolved peacefully by the countries concerned in accordance with international law and practice. On your second question, as of today, we haven't received any communication on that, but then Satyajit Ray and Pathar Panchali are national treasures. So if there is anything that the Ministry of External Affairs can do in this regard, we will certainly try and assist. Anyone else? Yes.
So could you tell about Norway couple issue, any updates coming from there?
I have a question related to this. May I just ask?
Yes.
Somebody's moved the Andhra Pradesh State Human Rights Commission, and in their plea, one of the points they're making is that the center, particularly the embassy in Oslo, did not provide timely legal help to this couple. Could you respond to that? And is there any scope for any intervention now that they've been convicted?
First of all, I don't like to use the word intervention in diplomatic terms. This is a very strong term, as you would know. So let's use some other term. But let me come to the substance of those two questions I think can be answered together. Our embassy in Oslo has been providing assistance to this Indian couple way before the news came to the forefront. This issue is not something that the embassy knew about last week, 10 days ago, a month ago. This is a matter which the embassy has been involved in providing assistance, goes back to more than 6 months ago or 8 months. At that stage, while it was not in the public domain, it was within the parameters of what we could call executive authority in Norway, and our mission had worked on this matter and assisted the couple between March and May with the Norwegian executive authorities, because this was then in the domain of the Norwegian executive. And part of that assistance also facilitated the return of the children to their parents. So to say that the embassy is totally at variance with facts, because the embassy has been providing assistance for more than 8-9 months. Next part is that once it moves from the domain of the executive to the domain of the judiciary, it is normal that the independence of the judiciary is a byword for us, both domestically in India as well as outside India. So when the matter went through the judiciary, what we could do was to provide assistance in terms of consular assistance. That is, to meet the couple, to seek whether they require legal assistance, and in case it was not, if they were not satisfied with it, take it up again. And this has been provided during the last few days. Even after the judgment came, our embassy consular officer has been in touch with both the husband, Mr. Chandrasekhar, and the wife, Mrs. Anupama, and they are housed separately. We are in regular touch with them. We've also gone beyond our consular officers. We've requested some of the spouses in the Indian mission to get in touch with the lady concerned, because these are difficult times for them. And we would like to offer all solace that we can. So as far as we are concerned, we have provided and support to the utmost extent possible. We will continue to render assistance in whatever way we can. As regards what is happening now, my understanding is that they have gone in for an appeal through their lawyer, and even as we speak, the matter is perhaps under appeal. And perhaps later during the day or sometime you would get information of where we stand on that. Yes, Rajiv.
I hope you answer this question as comprehensively as you did on the Maldives related questions. Putin's visit is just about a fortnight away. What is the status of Systema and Kudankulam 3-4? Hope you are comprehensive.
Yes. Today is the 6th, so I think it's more than a fortnight ago, away. Yeah. That said, the substance of the question. As far as Systema is concerned, you are aware that this is a matter which is sub judice. I've just explained at great length what we as the executive do, both in cases whether it is domestic or international, when matters are sub judice. And I don't think we can take a position very different in this case compared to what I explained in the other case. Otherwise, there are several of you who would say this is a matter of different standards. But that said, that's where we stand on Systema, that the matter is sub judice, and we are awaiting the outcome of that plea. As regards Kudankulam 3 and 4, negotiations are underway on the techno-commercial agreement. These are obviously negotiations which involve large amounts of money, so there are and technical issues, so they are scientific and technical in nature, and they are proceeding. I cannot give you a sort of timeline and an end date for that, but I would like to assure you that it is these are intense negotiations and are being carried forward to the best of our abilities. Last question.
So a few days ago, the Indian Navy chief said very categorically that the Indian Navy has been mandated to protect Indian economic interests overseas, and he also said that the Indian Navy under his watch is conducting exercises to rehearse intervention situations in the South China Sea. Now, does this, does this mandate, does this mark a change in policy, some sort of a policy shift in terms of actually militarily securing Indian interests in the South China Sea should they be threatened?
This is a question that's lived its gone by date, because the response to that has been provided in great detail by the National Security Advisor. I would advise you to have a look at that detailed response. I don't think there is anything that I can add further to that detailed response. So I hope you can have a look at that. Thank you very much.